Hey, thanks for joining us again. I'm Lauren K. Wyatt, the owner of Love Renegades, and we're going to continue our conversation about the laws of relationship. And to help me do that, I have a very special guest with me here today. Her name is Twyla. She's been an amazing client of mine, and she's also another professional intuitive, and she does other Twyla, you'll have to help me out here. But other corporate-y, very, very strong she's nodding her head. I don't know if you can see her or not. Anyway, Twyla's she's a badass, and she has broken the law of perfection, and we're going to talk about that a bit today. Hi, Twyla.
Hey, Lauren.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to connect about the law of perfection.
That's very welcome. I'm excited. Love talking with you.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, so the law of perfection, as we've discovered, it's one of the laws of relationship that can separate us from love and from having experiences that we want in our romantic relationships, our professional relationships, and in other parts of our lives. So Twyla, what was your romantic life like? What was your professional life like before you became a love renegade? And what that means is before you started to work with me.
Right. Okay. So leading up to wanting to work with you before, for about a year and a half, so I was newly married, just moved to a new country, wasn't able to work in that country. So I then found myself in a very dependent kind of a dynamic in my marriage. And like you talk about the law of perfection. So from the outside, maybe it looked really perfect. Like, oh, husband's earning a lot, they have this great little house, and all you have to do is cook and clean and all this stuff. But that was so not aligned to my truth. And what was authentic for me, but I had done it for about a year and a half, and I wasn't in a good spot after that year and a half. So I knew something really needed to change. And I know that's why I reached out to you. I was like, I've got this stuff going on and it just doesn't feel right. Like I'm a really independent woman. I'm working since I'm 11, always earning my own money. It wasn't a good fit. So something had to change for me.
Wow. Yeah. Highly independent person.
Yes. Yeah. Very few relationships, always looking after myself. Grew up with a mom who was dependent. So I really got ingrained into myself. I don't want to be dependent. I never want to depend on anybody. So finding myself in that position was just whoa, I never thought I'd be here. And yeah.
Wow. Was there sometimes when we're like how you said, law of perfection, it looked so nice and beautiful from the outside, like this newly married couple, husband has this great job, and you don't have to work, and
Right.
And it just didn't feel right to you, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then after a while, I kind of slowly became comfortable in it, and I didn't want to change. But deep down, there was physical issues kind of started popping up, and there was, tension because of it. And I knew I wasn't happy. I wasn't being self-actualized. I wasn't living into my gifts and doing what I love doing. It's an important part of my identity to be out there and earning and independent. So
Yeah.
it's hard.
Wow. I'm really soaking up what you're sharing with me. And as I think to what the law of perfection means, what I'm seeing right now is this is a law of relationship that gets activated to really keep us in our comfort zones and to really keep us from really letting our gifts shine through. And Twyla, the name of one of your companies is Soul Shine, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you have this gift of truth, and
Yes.
that, and is it hard to have this gift of divine truth, or has it been hard?
I would say yes, because it seems like my whole life conspired to make it difficult for me to really express my truth. Like, you know, I grew up in a family we didn't really talk about, like, the truth wasn't valued. The more what was valued was appearing to have everything together and appearing to for things to look good, but the core of what was going on, like as a child, when I'm like, it was very apparent to me, but the adults were saying, no, no, this is all fine. This is, you know, we just present this to the world, and that's the part that matters. So I think truth is a really hard gift to have. And so I wasn't really encouraged to speak my truth. Like, I come from a family of perfectionists and critical people who were like, so that's a big part of it too, is the self-criticism part. Like perfection, like this level of just way higher than what is reasonable at all times, thinking that's what I have to be achieving. So I do think it's a difficult gift in expressing my truth, especially like in my business as an intuitive, being really woo-woo. A lot of criticism, self-criticism around like really living into that. Like, my truth is that, you know, I read people's souls and I create Orgonite pieces, which are kind of out there, and there's a lot of judgment around, like, can I really shine? And those are my gifts. Like, that's really what I'm passionate about and what I want to be doing. But there's that other side of me that's like, nope, you shouldn't tell people this. Like, it's not safe, or, you know, it's not normal, or yeah. So.
Yeah, it's not safe. It's not normal. It also disrupts the status quo, I think.
Oh, huge. Yeah. Like, because yeah, not only do I have to do it on my own, I'm telling other people to do it and disrupting their lives. I'm like putting more stuff out into the world that's controversial and not entirely widely accepted yet. So, like, I know, and you know, the impact of it and how huge and positive it is, but it's not on a large scale yet, so, or widely accepted yet.
Yeah. This is huge. It's, again, like listening to you, and as I think about what the law of perfection means, the law of perfection is so much about staying safe and looking like everybody else.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Right? And it's choosing harmony over honesty.
Yeah.
It's following the crowd to be safe. Like, these are all themes of the law of perfection.
Yeah. And when you're in a relationship, it's not only about you, it's about your partner. And if your partner is not okay with everything, then there's that added pressure. And it's not only societal pressure, it's partner pressure to do the normal thing. And like, like it's just like a hobby. It's not like, you know, there was messaging that came through about that. So it's really about taking a stand for your truth, and really, like, the courage was a big theme, standing into my power, like thinking about the things that we worked on. Those were two huge pieces of it.
Yes.
To
Yeah,
break
is
the law.
what you said, so I remember we would, and you're not the only person that I've had similar conversations with about this, but when you have one partner who sees things differently, from their partner, and by different, like, I mean, like you, Twyla, like me, like other intuitives and sensitive people, like, who are watching this, like, this is a truth that is very different from the truth that we grew up with. And it is so hard when someone that you love very much, such as your partner, doesn't believe in you or dismisses what you do. It's like it's really tough to go through that, and it takes that courage and that will to say like, oh, this is what I believe, and I'm not making you believe in it, but for the love of everything, stop being such a dickwad about it. Not that you said that, but
I did not say that. I did not say that.
That would be like, and I'm totally breaking the law of perfection by saying that. Like, anyway. Don't be a dickwad.
It's all good, but I like what's coming up when you're saying that is like there's almost breaking the law twice, like breaking my own law and then having to, when I do that, then break somebody else's law. I mean, I can't ever do anything for anybody or break any laws, but it's like another layer of the law, right? Like
it's so true. Because so first you had to break the law of perfection with yourself and say, I'm going to stop gaslighting myself, and I'm going to give myself permission to really live into this and to be my gifts and to walk this different path. And yes, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it. And then those relationships that we have, especially our intimate relationships, they will often reflect the different fears that we have. So of course, if you have a fear of who you are, and if you're feeling kind of weird about what you believe, of course your partner is going to do that for you.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about that before, about how Twyla, this is your stuff that's getting reflected through him. So yeah, this is very much reminding me of all that. And the other thing that's coming up is like the perfection aspect of what it means to be a female, like, and a wife, and all of those kind of perfect role things. And so my truth is like, I'm very much a leader. I'm, like I said, very independent, but the perfect, what I had before as the idea of what perfect woman and wife and all of that is not the outspoken, assertive type of a person. It's woman. It's more of the, like, the follower, the supporter, those kind of things. So that was another aspect of the perfect relationship dynamic law, I guess, that I had to break through.
Wow. Like, just listening to what you described, I think it articulates so well what so many people experience, because it's like, you tell me at the beginning, like, highly independent person, been working, since I was 11, like really discerning about who I spent a lot of time with and had a relationship with. Having relations is such like a law of perfection type of thing to say. He says that. Only like really polite people will say that. Hey, anyway. But it's like you put yourself in this box of like having to be this wifey that so went against like your own true values and principles, right?
Yeah.
Well, you did try it on.
I did. I did. Can't say I didn't try.
And how
well, it's interesting because like the ultimate, like, I think we've talked about this before too, is like our truths always benefit everybody, right? So it didn't, that dynamic, that model, that traditional model, that the perfect husband and wife old school model wasn't on what my husband wanted either. So when I started changing, he really resonated to it and was supportive of it. But it was up to me to be like, okay, I need to take this step. Okay, I need to be okay stepping into my power. And then he was like, yay. I was like, what? I didn't expect that reaction. I thought I was going to get resistance, but it was all positive. It was all like, it greatly benefited both of us. So,
That is so cool. I want to ask you, like, I know that you said for a while, like, it felt kind of weird, and then it was like kind of nice, and you went back and forth, and you reached out to me. What was like the catalyst for you to break the law of perfection? Was there like one moment or a series of moments?
That's a really good question. I'm trying to think. I think, honestly, I think it was more just what I remember. I don't really remember it that well, but it was you reached out by email, and I was like, okay, I know I have these things, and I know I've been shoving them under the carpet, and I know that, like, this is a divine opportunity that I need to actually take it. Like, it just felt like divine timing, and I was like, okay, it wasn't like an event that broke the camel's back. It was more like this opportunity presented itself, and I was like, I just knew that, okay, the time is now. Like, I know this is going to be huge for me. I know I can trust this person, even though I hadn't worked with you before. But it was like, it was more like that.
Wow. So it sounds to me like your intuition and your wisdom was letting you know, like, something's not quite right. And then, so of course you attracted that experience of like, here's an opportunity for you to really look at the situation and decide where you stand and what you will do.
Yeah. And I can't remember if it was around my birthday or something. And it was like, this year, this is my intention. Like, I want to step back into my power. I want, like, to get all this stuff sorted out in my relationship. Like, now, it just needs to be now.
Sometimes
and then the
things
opportunity
just happen. It's just like, okay, like sometimes it's just an alignment opportunity. Like, okay, now it's it. Like, this is the time.
Because I think things would have maybe continued to go downhill and I just would have been like, it's okay, it's gonna get better. Eventually, we're working towards this point, and it's taking a little longer, but not horrible, but it's not great either.
Yeah. So when you signed up when you took that opportunity and you signed up to work with me, was it like a confrontational experience for you to see the law of perfection and to see different things you could do? Was it scary?
I'm trying to think of like the internal resistance that came up. Like, because I did 2 of your coaching programs, right? And the first one, I think well, first we had the session, and that was very specific to my relationship. And then the learning about the laws of perfection and all of that happened in the second coaching program. So that was kind of like, it was like, yeah, this light bulb was like, oh my goodness, this is my law that I need to break.
This is my best friend law.
This is what I'm going to be working on, because it just really hit home and it resonated. And I was like, I know I'm a recovering perfectionist, and had like working on it in different ways in the past. But I think what was most effective working with you was because breaking the law of perfection is so much about authenticity and being myself and not going with the status quo, that it was like having you always there reminding me of my divine truth and my gifts, and like really supporting me and helping me figure out what that looked like. That was really, I think, what allowed for such massive growth and transformation in that year that we worked together, because it was like we were constantly upholding Lila, remember, what about your truth? Like, what's your truth in this situation? You better figure out your truth. So there was a lot of stuff there. Not in a bad way, like not in
You know, I'm laughing because I had a client once, so like she was very much entrenched in the law of perfection, and it exhibited very different, like from how yours did. But we had some email exchanges, and she wanted me to tell her what to do because the law of perfection, and you know what, I have empathy for it. Like when we want to do something that's like new, it can feel really scary. And she wanted me to tell her exactly what to do, but she wanted to receive it in the way that she wanted it. Like, and what I kept doing was putting it back on her. Well, what do you want? Like, well, what's your motivation for that? Like, well, and she got so upset with me, and she's like, I wanted to write back and tell you to go fuck yourself. I was like, well, okay, we're breaking the law of perfection. That's really good. That's not like, a very pretty thing to say to somebody. But to what you said, you really got to take ownership of what it was that you wanted.
Yeah. And I think it did piss me off sometimes. Like when you'd be like, what do you think? Like, what do you want? Like, what does it mean to you? I'm like, well, I'm asking you the question. So why, like, if I knew this already, I would not be asking you this question.
It's infuriating. Like, I mean, I get it. It's really annoying to have somebody that does that, but it's also such a service because I don't know what you think about this, but I think that when we get to really trail and track what our motivation is, and I don't know what those sounds are. Did you hear them?
No.
Okay. No. Let me back it up because I'm going to edit that part.
Okay.
So when we get to track our intention and our motivation for something, I think what it does is it really trains us to have a conversation with our intuition and with our heart. And that's something that we are not taught to do. And even listening to your heart or intuition is breaking the law of perfection.
Yeah. And actually, like, you probably remember that massive issue that came up, that like huge issue at the end of the coaching program, that because of all that drilling you'd done, and because of all the work that I had done to really be able to tune into my truth, I was so steadfast in my truth when that issue happened that I was able to just really navigate it from a way more empowered place, rather than, like crumbling and being like, oh, you're right. Perfect. yeah. I didn't handle this. Like, yeah. Ooh, it was huge.
It was. So
like
I know we're not going to talk about the issue itself. No. We won't, because too soon. But I do remember we talked and you just started laughing and you were like, I mean, well, shit, and you were so clear on where you stood and what you were going to do. And I asked questions. You really tuned into what your intention was, what your motivation was, and so what your stand was on it.
Yeah.
And you were so powerful.
Mm-hmm. So opposite of the law of perfection that just wants to be like, let's keep it, like I could not handle confrontation before. Like the law of perfection doesn't like any disruption. So it's like, you know what, just peace, keep it, agree, like, or don't deal with it and just let it, go under the carpet again. So that was huge. Like,
I know. I remember when I was just like, oh wow. Oh wow. But you you handled it so well. So
Mhm.
when you said earlier that like you really standing in your truth and owning what it was that you wanted, and you know, standing up for yourself and being courageous, and you said that you thought it would be a big deal with your partner, but he's been supportive, is that kind of what
Mhm.
happened after the
That.
big the big blow up?
Yeah, it was just the fact that like there was all this positive reinforcement for my choices and how I'd handled it, whereas I, internally sort of been wondering, like, I don't know how this is gonna go over, because again, like, this is really assertive. This is really not mild mannered, nice way of doing things. But I was met with this like respect and positive reinforcement and ultimately positive growth and discussion for the relationship. So it's a huge turning point.
Oh, I love that, because it's like there like something huge, like a big blowout happens with a partner, right? And we can think it's the end of the world, but sometimes that blowout happens because that blowout can help us get to like the next level together. It's just like here's some change. And since you were so
Mm-hmm.
clear on what you wanted, your actions, your choices, and the communication that followed really aligned with your intention, that even though it was like really tough while it was unfolding, because it wasn't like it happened and then like the next day, 2 days later, everything was fine. It was like a few weeks, right?
Yeah, it had, yeah, well, it was like a week, a good week at least.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, it was a good
So
week.
it wasn't a few. Well, that's
It
good.
was not a few weeks. No, that would have been
So,
painful.
oh, well, it felt like a few weeks. So
Mhm.
you, by standing in it, it really allowed you two to get to a different place.
Yeah, because it kind of reminds me of that saying, like, it's better to be real than perfect. So it's like, what does our real look like? What does our relationship look like? How do we do this, and finding our way? Because there's my truth, and then there's the relationship truth. And so we really like, this is, I don't know how, like, we would chisel the way into like, this is how we are, and how we handle these things, and how we'll move forwards. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes so much sense and it's beautiful.
Mm.
So, Twyla, what advice do you have for people who suspect that they're struggling with the law of perfection?
Well, definitely learning how to navigate the self-criticism is big. So a practice that I used to rely on, and sometimes still do, is this, like, just telling myself, like, I love and accept whatever it is I'm criticizing at the moment, because that's just giving yourself love instead of criticizing and being hard on yourself. Because if you're a law of perfection person, you're obviously like probably an overachiever, and you do things that are really like to the amazing level, but you're still hard on yourself. And then probably like there's not being afraid to live into your truth, and understanding that it is uncomfortable at first, but it does become less uncomfortable. You just start to realize, okay, this is uncomfortable and this is why it's happening. And I think, like, working with you, I realized, like, I gained a lot of tools to be able to um handle those times, so they're not as, like, instead of massive tidal wave, they just feel a little bit, they get smaller and smaller. Yeah, and just remind yourself, like, that saying, like, it's better to be real than perfect. And there's so much good stuff comes after you are vulnerable and real and authentic, and it's all good.
I love that. Thank you so much. I have one last thing. During our time together, I remember you came up with this really, because you're also an artist as well as an intuitive, and you started working with Orgonite. and supporting your clients in that way.
Yeah.
Could you tell the people watching just a little bit about that and how they could connect with that service that you have?
Sure. So one of the things that is really like a expression of who I am and combines all my gifts together, my intuitive gifts, my artistic gifts, is creating these Orgonite pyramids. And this is one that I created for myself. So Orgonite's positive energy generating, and then I use my intuitive energy work to soul attune it but specifically to the person, and intention activate it. So I just love working with people and understanding their intentions and what they want to create in their life and the energies they want to bring in, and then really like creating a piece of art that anchors it not only visually but energetically for them. So and if you want to learn more about Orgonite, you can
Yes,
check
we
out
do.
okay.
Tell us
It's
how.
amazing.
How can we learn more about it?
Okay. You can go to twylak.com. That's my website, twylak.com, and then click on the Orgonite tab.
Okay. Well, that sounds amazing. And I'm just thinking about how that's a tool that can really support people in breaking the law of perfection as well as the other laws of relationship, and then, all the other good stuff that they want as well.
Yeah, people have experienced massive transformations with a piece of Orgonite, so I just love it.
Thank you so much for being here with me today, Twyla, as we talk about the law of perfection.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.